We're going to lock the door. We're going to throw away the key. Any of us familiar with this type of attitude? It's one that's become prevalent in America, particularly in our prison systems. Consider this. Over a 40-year period, that's 4 decades, there's been a 4-fold increase in the American population behind bars. We now have the highest incarceration rate worldwide. So questions have come. What's caused this? What are we going to do about it? First, consider what some think are 2 contributing factors. The first is known as deinstitutionalization. This began in the 1970s and was an effort to remove people from state psychiatric facilities into the community. If we look at this graph, we can see, though, that as the populations in the state psychiatric facilities decreased, at the same time began the increase in our prison systems. Now again, the intent was to get people into the community out of the hospitals. It was a good intent, but the problem is the services that were promised, they didn't transpire. So what happened? We had people getting out of the hospitals. That's a good thing. Without services, not such a good thing. Now, I'm not an advocate of building the state hospital up again, but people do need their services. It's estimated by a 2014 National Research Council report that over 50% of people in our prison facilities meet the criteria for at least one mental disorder. Another contributing factor is known as the war on drugs. Many of us are familiar with the term. Again, it began in the early 1970s under President Nixon. It was an attempt to protect society from the rise of illegal substances and all the dangers attributed to it. But we had a lot of people ending up in our jails, not as a result of distributing these substances, but as a result of using them and become addicted to them and possessing them themselves. The graph here shows information from a 2014 Bureau of Justice Statistics report. It estimates that 50.1% of federal and 15% of state prisoners were due to drug-related charges. A report in Time magazine estimates that 4 out of 5 of these were due to possession of the drugs. Should these people be considered violent offenders, thrown into prison? This often begins the cycle of recidivism, in and out of the jails. Are they criminals, or are they human beings who just need the proper treatment in order to become productive citizens of the community? One approach to help counter prison overcrowding is the use of what are known as problem-solving courts. These are diversionary in nature. They're meant for people who meet certain criteria, such as mental illness or addiction. Instead of going through the traditional courts, a person who meets these criteria are sent to the problem-solving court. There, the court designs a program for them to follow. They monitor how well they're completing the program. Also, incentives are offered, one of the biggest being a possible reduction or even dismissal of the charges. Now we can see how this would benefit the people going through the system, the people who've had the problems. But society is going to want to know, what are we going to get out of it? Well, there's 2 key benefits to American society. The first being financial. It costs American taxpayers on the average $35,000 to put someone in prison for 1 year. Now, a lot of people aren't happy with spending that kind of money, and we've got a lot of problems in society. Children who are going hungry. We've got a lot of real crime going on. Places we'd rather put the money than into prisons and maintaining the lives of people who are then not giving anything back. Now, certain types of problem-solving courts haven't been around for very long, but drug courts are one that have. And we have some statistics we can look at to see the effectiveness of this type of intervention. A bulk of these show a huge financial savings to the U.S. taxpayer. This chart shows how one county alone, Chatham County in Georgia, guaranteed a minimum savings to taxpayers of $403,200 to provide 120 days of court-ordered drug treatment to those in drug court versus 120 days of incarceration. The effects of providing treatment over imprisonment included multi-million-dollar savings to the people of Texas, when in 2007 they opted to invest $240 million into alternative sentencing and treatment programs rather than $540 million into building new prisons. Not only do the taxpayers benefit directly by investing in less costly treatment as opposed to prison, they also gain indirectly, as many who successfully graduate from the treatment courts stand a better chance at employment. Without the criminal record, they themselves become taxpayers, and thus are no longer are living off the system, but contributing back into it. The second benefit of diversionary programs to American society is the positive impact they often have on public safety. Though opponents of these type of programs claim that imprisonment is the only way to keep the public safe, the issue is that a large number of people behind bars now aren't there due to violent crimes. Some for things like we've already mentioned, some for simple parole violations. With the proper support and treatment, the bulk of this group wouldn't be in legal trouble to begin with. So problem-solving courts are one way to enforce both the provision and the use of such services. Following efforts, including alternative sentencing, that reduced the prison population, many were fearful that crime would once again rise. However, the opposite is shown to be true. Here is a graph which depicts the relationship between the two. We can see that with a decrease in incarceration also comes a decrease in crime rate. Now, don't Americans deserve better than living with the reputation of the incarceration nation? In efforts such as the war on drugs to protect our citizens, and the deinstitutionalization movement to protect the rights of those with mental disorders, we may have actually done more harm than good. Those with mental illness have gone from one type of institution to another. Those suffering addiction are sentenced to serve jail time, often not receiving the support that they need behind bars, and taxpayers are paying huge amounts of money. It's far beyond time to change the reputation. Prison diversion programs, including problem-solving courts, have shown legitimate in achieving this transformation. Take some time, investigate it for yourself. Though it's not the end-all I dream of, where one day we don't even have to deal with crime by addressing the core issues, it is, however, a step of intervention toward one day achieving prevention. Thank you.